Hey guys, the Gothic here. Today we're going to be looking at fastest competitive supercars in GTA Online Part 2. Part 1 was about 2 months ago on Davis Avenue. We published that video on December 25th, 2016. Today is February 26th or 25th, 2016. We're going to be looking at the fastest competitive supercars on my track of Blaine County Test Ring. It's a track that, it's not a racing track, it's a test ring. The layout doesn't make sense for a racing track, but for a testing track it works perfectly. We're testing the top 15-ish vehicles in GTA because the rest of them are just not competitive and you wouldn't even think about using them in a competitive racing environment, so why bother testing them? So we're going to get started. We're going to look at number 16, which is the Italy GTB Custom with a 55756. Pretty slow relatively comparing to the rest of it, but not that slow. All the cars are within about 2-ish seconds of each other. It's not like a huge difference. The Tall GTB, the problem with this track has a lot of downforce. There's a lot of flowing corners and but there's also very tight corners, which the Tally GTB Custom and other cars with downforce don't do well on. Like this hairpin right here, the Tally GTB Custom cannot get around that very quickly because it only has downforce, not spoiler, and it does very bad around low speed corners. Tally GTB, on the other hand, it does very well around low speed corners, but this track also has a lot of high speed corners, so it really is a bunch of trade-off. It's a bit faster than a custom version, but not by much. It's only about 1.1 seconds for this, so I wouldn't recommend either of them for racing because they're both very hard to race. Also, I just saw that. I didn't. Some of the lap times or some of the lap videos were corrupted, so I couldn't get the actual fastest lap to show in the video. So if there's an error in the lap, it's just due to the fact that I got the wrong video because the thing wasn't edited properly. But all the times are accurate as best as I can, and don't rely on the videos and don't point out, oh, you did different lanes for different vehicles, because it's probably just due to the fact that I got different. The video is corrupted. So Penetrator 55457. It's a very boring vehicle. It's a very boring to drive. It's not very exciting in the supers class. It's just a slow vehicle. Not much to say about it. It's cheap. That's about as much as you could say for DLC vehicles, like $700,000. So it wasn't very expensive for a DLC vehicle. Other than Turismo, it's fun to drive. Very hard to get this lap time. It took me. And when you have to do these off-road tires in order to get this lap time. Without off-road tires, I'll get 55.1 or 55 flat. It took me forever to get this lap I couldn't get this lap with tuners. So off-roads, even on a track like this, do definitely benefit. Even though there's not any bumps, if any, to get from this track. So fun to drive, very hard to get the lap time. So take that as you will. If you enjoy driving, then it's okay. It's a $500,000 supercar, so it's not very expensive. FMJ 54856. This and the next car are pretty much virtual ties because they both get pretty much the same lap time. It's down to margin of error. This part, don't look at that part because that is the wrong video. I actually did the proper lines for everything. So 54856. The problem with this track is there's not much top speed, and this car really suffers with acceleration. So that's why it doesn't get as much of a benefit from lap time. So completely different vehicles that build up their lap time in two completely different ways, and they get very similar lap times. Entity has a lot of acceleration, not very good top speed, very good traction. The FMJ top speed and is good, acceleration's not that great, and the traction are good on both of them. So they build up their lap times in two completely different ways, but they both get the same exact lap time, which is very interesting coming from these two cars. So yeah, they're both very good cars. Entity used to be a top dog, now it's number 11th on this track. So yeah, it's kind of sad that this car got knocked down, but 10 more DLC vehicles super pass it. So the Reaper with a 54621. This car really feels good on this track. It's a very fast car on this track. It really does do well around this track. So between the Turismo and I'd like to say the third best supercar, which was from 12th to 3rd, they're all within about 1 second of each other. And so you pretty much can use whatever vehicles in that area that you want. Osiris 54554. It's the slowest of the three. I would like to say the three Trinity vehicles: the Zentorno, the Turismo, or not the Zentorno, the Osiris, and the T20. Those cars, this is the slowest out of those three on this one track. This car just didn't really like the track too much. I don't know, it just didn't feel, it was very slow, it didn't feel that great. But it's still really good comparative wide, but if you'd be much better suited using a Zentorno or T20, which are coming up very soon. In 8th place, we got the Tyrus with the 54322. This car isn't as fast as its other DLC vehicles that were released with it, the ETR1 and the RSMB, and it's very expensive, 2.5 mil, if I'm not mistaken. It's very expensive, and it doesn't get the best lap time. There's much cheaper cars that get much better lap times and are easier to drive than the Tyrus. Tyrus is, if you enjoy the driving style, then it'll get you around the track really fast, but I would not recommend buying it. Again, I had to borrow B-Dog's account in order to get the lap time because I don't own a Tyrus because I'm retarded, and I sold it when I still needed it. Zentorno 54321. I believe this and next car have virtual ties this car, Zentorno and the Tyrus have virtual ties. As you remember, the Tyrus had a 322, and this one has a 321. Again, they both build up their lifetimes in completely different ways. Zentorno is a pretty much very well balanced car, is pretty good in everything. The Tyrus is really good in flowing corners, but not very good around tight corners and tight hairpins. So they build their lap times in two completely different ways, but they get the same lap time relatively. T20 54255. This car really likes this track. It just feels super fast around this track. This is the T20's kind of track. It clicks everywhere on every single corner. It wasn't very hard for me to get this lap time, and the power it just puts down on this track is awesome. It's a great car, great to use in racing. It's just great. Like, I don't know what it is about this track, but it just clicks on this track. The Zentorno is a bit more difficult to get the lap time. It wasn't difficult per se, but it took me longer to get the lap time. The Nero Custom 54088. I did not think the Nero would do well on this track at all because the acceleration on the Nero isn't very good, but the power, man, on third gear, it starts pulling hard. 54088, very quick lap time from the Nero. I did not have high expectations for this car. I was thinking it'd get mid-pack at best on this track, but 5th place for this car, very good. It's a very well-rounded car, and I love this car, the Nero Custom. It's such a fun car to race, especially when you're pulling on the main straights to slower supercars. It's a very fun car to drive. X80 54021. This was very interesting because my second time around it, I had a 54 9XX. I don't remember the exact number. I thought, oh, this car is gonna do crap. I did a bunch of other cars. I retested this car one more time to make sure that the lap time was accurate, and it was not accurate at all. 54021, very quick lap time from the X80. I hate driving it with every fiber of my being, but it's still a fast car. If you like driving it, then go ahead driving it. It's a $2.7 million supercar, so you may not want to go pick it up. Tempesta 53721 breaks the 54 barrier. It's very quick, it has a lot of traction, and it's a Zentorno on crack, pretty much. It's a nice car to drive. It's kind of boring for me. I don't like driving it too much, and the top speed is pretty poor on it. Entity level top speed. So any track where there's on the main straight, this car really loses out on. But everything else, this car feels solid. If you're not good at racing, this is a good car to use. Next one, ETR1 53287. Very quick lap time from the ETR1. As you remember from last video, this got it was mid pack. It was like 9th or 10th. And before the bikers update, this was the second best supercar, but it was then relegated back to 9th after they got rid of the spoiler and downforce together. So on this track, a 53287, very quick lap time from the ETR1. This is the ETR1's kind of track, so that's why it got there. You guys know what the best supercar is, the 52829. A very quick lap time from the RSMB. Nothing's probably going to displace this anytime soon. It's very quick. It's very quick, very good around the high-speed corners of this track. But around the hairpin, you'll see in a minute, it's very slow. On any track with hairpins, like a hairpin city-style track, it won't do well at all. Because it struggles to get around this corner because of the tightness of it. But a 52829, very quick lap time, very boring. I would recommend having an RSMB and at least one other supercar of your choosing. A GT2 supercar if you will. Anything like X80 or below, I would recommend having one of those kind of cars, at least. I own pretty much all of these, but I would recommend having at least one more supercar just in case RE7Bs are banned or something else. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this part 2. So we got 2 more testing tracks that we're gonna do. I believe they're gonna be done in the next 2 weeks. All the testing for those tracks, and then we'll be on to the next. And then we'll be on to the finale of the series where I'm going to tell you what car to buy. I'm going to do a bunch of math with it to show you what car is best for what scenarios and whatnot. So, hope you guys enjoy. Leave it a like, leave a like, enjoy, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what you guys think about this testing. Yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.